Hello everyone, I'm Lydia Rai and I'm here today with Prasha Maharjan, and she is a professional mental health counselor of ECAT Nepal, which stands for, what does it stand for?
Yeah, it's Empowering Counseling and Therapy.
Okay, so about this ECAT, so what is it about?
So Empowering Counseling Therapy, I started this practice in 2023 when I returned from the United States. I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling in Michigan through Cornerstone University. And when we came back to Nepal, I wanted to start a mental health counseling practice to reach people who would like to take care of their mental health needs. And I also wanted to make it accessible and affordable because I think many people think that taking care of their mental health care is a luxury, right? But it's not. I think people think that it's a luxury to take care of yourself, of your mental health needs, because it costs a lot to find a therapist, a counselor. So I made it my mission through our nonprofit to make it affordable. So I have clients from all across, all across Nepal, because I also have some from out of Kathmandu, but also like from all walks of life. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
I have people who are able to afford and people who really need help.
That sounds interesting. So, as a person, you are right. Your full name is Prasha Maharjan. So, how would you like to describe yourself as a person?
As a person, well, I would like to think that as a counselor, I am someone who is an active listener, and that I'm trained in my field, that I'm able to help people with with the mental health issues they're facing or challenges, I might say, that I am equipped and trained to help them in that area.
Okay. So you'd like to describe yourself as a counselor?
Oh, right. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So that's the main thing that you.
Yes. Okay. So to be precise, it's professional clinical mental health counselor.
Okay.
Yeah. So my master's.
Why do we have to be precise? Like, why does that title have to be precise?
Well, in Nepal, I guess we have to be, because I realized that people with just 6 months training, even 3 months training, or even lay people who've received probably some informal training in counseling are calling themselves counselors, right? And I was like, cool, yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to meet another counselor. But then after hearing their training and background, it turns out they didn't have the what am I doing? The training, right? The aggressive, the experience that I received, the training. I was in school for 3+ years, and I had training under a very good supervisor, like a trauma counselor, for a year. So, so I have a pretty, I would say, like, great a training that's that has made me pretty confident in this field.
Oh, okay. So how long have you been doing this then?
So since 2022.
2022. Okay. So we are in 2025 now. So you have been doing it, like, have you done it back in US as well?
Yes. So that's when I was under training. Okay. That's what I meant. Like I had a supervisor, right, who was really experienced, and like a role model for me. I was really blessed to have a good supervisor. So I trained under her for a year. Yeah, that really built my confidence in being a trauma counselor.
Okay. So when you talk about it, you seem to be really excited about it, about your work. So what do you like most about your work, and what you don't like about your work?
Well, what I like about my work is that, I feel like I am doing what I'm called to do. And the feedback that I get from my clients give me joy. Because if they were saying, this is not working, I don't think you're helping me, or then I would, obviously feel like, okay, maybe this is not my thing. But rarely have I received a bad feedback, let me say that, right?
Okay.
On the flip side, I've been getting referrals, like word of mouth, through my counselors. Okay, I would like to refer someone else, because I've worked with you, or even a friend who knows me. I keep getting referrals from people that I know, not from this promotion or whatever advertising that I do, but from real people who know me personally, my work. So I think that's the biggest compliment.
Okay.
That people I know, people who worked with me, are sending people my way. So that's what I like. What I don't like would be when, people come here, they're spending their time, their money, right, all their resources, and when they don't put in the work. Because if you want a different life, right, if you are here in my office because you're hoping to change, or you're not happy with the way your life is going on, right? So if they don't put in the work and do the homeworks that are assigned, then that makes me sad. Like, it's a waste of their time and my time, right? So that's what I don't like when my clients don't.
So what I got from this is, like, it's good for your business if it goes from word to word, because on business, usually when that happens, it usually retains for a long time, right? Because it's from person to person, and they retain for a longer time. And I think that's good for you. And what's interesting about what you said that you don't like is, I think that makes you a good counselor, because you are also focusing on the long-term impact, and you want them to work on it and not just come to this session, listen, but you want them to work on it. And if they don't work on it, and that makes you feel sad. So I think that makes you a good counselor and also a good human.
So thank you.
That's really interesting to hear. So beside this counseling, and what are you most excited, or like you are to do about beside this counseling?
Oh, I see. Sure. Okay. I think they all like tie in together. So I love taking care of myself, right? My health, and am I taking good care of myself? So it includes my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health. We are a package, right? We are a whole being. So we need to look at ourselves as not in parts, but as a whole being. That my spirituality is not beside my. It's not
like apart from
apart from my emotional health
or your job,
or physical health, a job, right? So so what I'm passionate about is just looking at myself like that I need to take care of my physical health, what I eat, what I put in my body, right? What I put in my mind, because what we consume is what we are living out, right? So that's what I'm passionate about, that I'm living a healthy lifestyle in every aspect of my life.
Okay, so I did see a lot of your like fitness exercises videos that you post online, and I think you can even be a fitness coach, because people usually like they do see these videos and online and stuff, but they do need certain guideline, and I think you could even do good in that. So I see that because you are doing it and you keep on posting it, and though I do not do that, but I do really like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, so about this mental health, so people have different perception about when they hear about mental health, and especially in Nepal, right? So back in US and here, so what do you think is the major difference about how people perceive mental health?
Well, I think now, maybe in the past, it was more of a taboo or stigma, right? But I think the current generation, they are understanding the advantages of taking care of their mental health, and if there is a available service like this, and it's affordable, I think people are making use of it. In the United States, it's just part of, when you go to a doctor, they do an assessment, right? They do like a mental health assessment or, and then if they see that that person is facing some mental health challenges, then they do refer as part of their physical health assessment. So it is part of their healthcare, right?
Okay.
So here, that's not the case. A person has to go to a doctor, and they may or may not be assessed for their mental health.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or it has to be an extreme case,
Okay.
like clinically depressed.
Oh, okay.
Then they are referred to a mental health counselor.
Okay.
A person doesn't just go to a mental health counselor because they're facing some challenges. Like life brings a lot of challenges, right? Like family issues, or you lost a close family friend, whatever. Huge life events. They don't think that they need to go talk to someone or process their feelings because of that. And also maybe because historically, we are a communal society, or like what do you call it? Like we're not individualistic, right? We have families and we have friends, and we live in a very close-knit structure. So we were used to just sharing and doing stuff together. Perhaps that's why. But now, as Nepal is also progressing towards more individualistic lifestyle, and people are coming to the city, their family may not be with them, so maybe now they're more aware that they don't have immediate family or members to process any challenge together. So they are being more aware that maybe they should go seek some professional help.
So in life, like life is always like up and down, right? So it's never like a straight line.
Yeah.
And so people face many challenges and burdens. Like every person does.
Yep.
But do you think that every person should seek a mental health counselor, or like should they not, or is it like an extreme level? And what do you think about it?
I can't answer that, right? I think it depends on that individual. Some people are just, they're just resilient. They just know how to get help, either from within themselves, or they know they have someone in their family or friends in their sphere of influence that they can reach out to and help themselves. And some people just don't have that resource, those resources. So maybe for that person, they may be helped by a professional, right? And you're right, if it's an extreme case, definitely. If you are struggling and just going down and down, for sure, go get help. Okay. But so it's very, it's not like a one fit all kind of answer. It depends.
One size fits all.
Yeah, one size fits all.
Okay. So when people seek like the mental health or counseling and that type of thing, and what have you personally experienced? Like you do notice some kind of patterns in every client you meet, right? So what are the major like common patterns that you see among people who come to you?
Yeah, wow, that's a very good question. Yes, I've seen that. Okay. They think that I can help them.
Okay. But you can. That's what you mean.
No.
Okay.
Actually, they need to help themselves.
Okay. So you're like empowering them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the name.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
So, that's it. Like they have to identify, and that's my job, right? To guide and give them tools and resources. But it's within their reach. It's in them. And that's why we work for several sessions, because they need to get to know me. I need to know them to know what their strengths are, right? What support system they have.
Yeah.
And just by processing and talking, now I'm like, okay, you know what? This is your strength. How about you tap into that?
Oh, okay.
It's within them.
Okay. So you're just talking to them and letting them figure out themselves.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm more, client-centered therapist, which means they take their steps, or they guide me because of their stories, because of what they have and can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So that's the pattern. So my goal is to let them be aware that help is within their reach. They help themselves. I'm just there to guide, and when you're talking and processing, they realize, of course, I do have this strength or this tool that I can use. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it.
Okay, that's interesting. So basically, they have all the if there is a puzzle, they have all the pieces. So you just tell them that there are different pieces, and you just guide them to put it together.
Or we have different interventions, right? Different tools.
Okay.
And we have to figure out what resonates with them or what works for them.
Okay.
Maybe that's what you mean by pieces of the puzzle. There are lots of pieces, and
so sometimes basically if you have ever played puzzles, so basically if you put the corner pieces first, it gets easier to build up the pieces, right? So sometimes people cannot put the corner pieces, and so you have them guide them to know the corner pieces, and so that they can put other pieces easily. So
maybe. Yeah.
So I think that's what I understood from what I said. Okay, so talking about mental health, and so what would you say, according to your experience, the top 5 things that works out for every people that will help them on their mental health?
First, they need to have faith in the process.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because if they're just here and they don't believe that, and this is true with everything. If you're seeing a doctor, you have to have faith that this will help me.
So you cannot be a skeptic.
That's what I think. That you have to have faith in the process, right? And then whatever is being talked about, or you have to behave. So I would say, let's put it like this. So you have to have that belief, right? And then you have to start behaving. If you're here because you're not happy with how you are, then you need to be something different, right? You need to think differently. You need to behave differently.
Okay.
So you need to change the way you think and behave.
Okay.
And then consistency, do the homework. Yeah, because you've lived the life that hadn't worked for so long. By default you just go into that pattern or habit you were used to, but of course that wasn't working. That's why you're here. So you got to be very intentional and consistent.
Okay.
Right? In adopting new habits and new thinking patterns. So that's how change happens. Change doesn't happen when you are doing the same things over and over.
Okay.
Right? So change happens when you think differently and behave differently.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So have faith and then behave, think differently, and make it consistent, right? Intentional, consistent.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
you see result. Then you become what you're hoping to be.
Okay.
So I guess those are my top 5.
Okay. So like a mental health, like it is not just like one part. So a person has like a mental being, and then there's a physical being, and there's also spiritual being. So do you think all of these should be connected, or that
Yes.
like when a person gets sick, do you think all of these are connected, or like only one part is affected?
No. I think all of it. Like you'll notice that if you are struck by a disease or you're not feeling well, obviously it's gonna hurt your mental health, your emotional well-being, right? So these all are interconnected, and they need to be handled simultaneously. That's why I say I work. I see them as a whole person, not just their mental health. You know, I ask them about their nutrition, their lifestyle, their spirituality, and they all need to be worked together. It cannot be like, okay, just take care of your mental health, just take this pill, right? No.
Okay. So like nowadays, like the mental health issue and is like emerging in more awareness, right? Everywhere. Like even in Nepal, people know more about mental health than like any time before. So what do you think is causing that? Like as a professional, what do you think has the like even like before going to US and after coming from US, you have seen this pattern of change about people's perception about mental health, right? So what do you think is causing this change, like not just in Nepal but everywhere?
I would say people are walking away from what needs to come naturally. Nature, right? Family structures, being in family, wanting to be in family. I think more and more people don't want to be in family structures nowadays. They want to be independent. They want to be away from parents. They don't want to get married. I think these are the natural building blocks of our society, right? And also nature. By that, I mean, there's less and less nature around us, right? Everything is like buildings and concrete. We don't have like forests or woods within walking distance, parks, right? I mean, those used to be just in our backyard in the past, and we were so in touch with nature. You know, there's science behind it that when you are in nature, it changes the energy, you know, the balance, the hormone. Yeah, it's all interconnected. So people wanting to be more and more individualistic, that's my personal view. And I see, that's also causing this burst in mental health challenges and struggles, right? And even our food, right? It's so far from the natural state now. So our body is repelling because it's not true to what it should be. You know, what our food recognizes. It's most of the ingredients are synthetic. So that affects our hormones, you know, and when we are not in the natural state, our stress increases. So our body, our brain is always fighting. It's stress, you know, and you know about the cortisol, right? The stress hormone. That's on the rise. You're always like cellularly, we're facing these struggles and stresses. So of course, those mental health struggles are going to be on the rise.
So yeah, that's interesting, because basically what used to happen in the old days, like people used to work on fields and stuff, like especially in Nepal, right? And they did not used to have, like, even if you talk to like our older generation, they make fun of, like, if you have depression, like they will make fun, like we did not used to have that kind of thing in our days. And that makes kind of sense as well, because they were like live in communities and then working in fields and like close to nature and everything.
Exactly.
And but people nowadays, like everybody has an office work, like they have a laptop on their table, and then they work like for 8 hours or even more, and they come back home and they watch the like TikToks and Instagrams and reels and everything. And that's basically what everyday's life is. Even our lives, right? That's paced like that. So that makes sense. And if I like join this in our Christian perspective, I think it also makes sense to say that when people move away from things God created and to what people created, I think that is also moving from the natural state to another, right? So talking about that, you are a Christian, right? And you're also a pastor's wife, right?
Yeah.
And that makes you in a pastoral household, right? So you're working in this field, and you're also a Christian. So what do you wanna like focus on telling to the viewers about like about Christianity and then the mental health, and how do you join that? And because I have heard you like that kind of coincides, and I've heard you talking about that, and you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So my Christian faith tells me that we are wonderfully made, right? God made us good, but when sin entered the world, that affected our goodness or how we were. But at the same time, God has given us these healing properties, in our amazing body. So we have to have faith in what He has instilled in us. Faith, that being number one, right? And healing begins in community. So when you are in pain, you're hurt, for sure, reach out to God. But He also has given you a godly support system. So recognize that. Live in community. You don't need to struggle alone. Right? So that would be that. And also, again, God has given us nature, right? It's His blessing, His creation. And those have healing properties. Like what food is going to heal us, right? And spending time in nature, just gratitude. In counseling field, we talk a lot about how gratitude is, practicing gratitude is a great tool, right? To burn, to release stress and several other problems or issues. So it's very biblical, right? To practice gratitude, to practice mindfulness, meditation. So that's what I would say, right? Have faith. If you are struggling, you don't have to suffer alone. Believe and have faith that God has given us this amazing body, and that it's able to heal if you give it the right conditions, the right environment. And I know I could go on and on about this, but maybe in another session we can talk about
the impact of Christian worldview and mental health.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
That would be an interesting topic to see. And so talking about like you are a counselor, a professional counselor, and also like supporting in pastoral mission, right?
Yep.
So back then you were just a counselor, right? And now you are like holding up a church as well, and a counseling as well. So how do you have how has that changed for you, like personally, and how has that impacted you, especially the addition of church and especially of being in a pastoral family?
Well, so actually that's somewhat true. When I was in the US, I was working as a social worker. So I did some unofficial therapy then too, right? Informal or whatever you want to call it. And I was a pastor's wife then as well.
I mean, like you're starting out everything like from scratch.
Yes, when I graduated from college, my husband was already pastoring a small community of believers, and then I was working as a social worker. So I was a pastor's wife then, and maybe I don't think my husband has ever not been a pastor. Like once he started being a pastor, like for people, he's always been a pastor. For me, I've seen him in that role for a long time. But however, like moving back home to Nepal and then starting my own practice and all that, I think I've enjoyed it more because there's more freedom here than in the United States, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you cannot, see. It's the guidelines and it's very strict. You can't blur. I mean, here too, I try to be as professional as possible. And if it's someone I know personally, I try not to be their counselor.
Okay.
However, like I do some counseling with some of my church folks.
Okay. So in US, I think you can get sued for it, right? Like people usually sue people for everything. So maybe they could do it. But here in Nepal, they usually don't, because our community is not built like that, and even our system is not built like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing as well.
It's a good thing, and it's hard because it's Nepal or Kathmandu is such a small community, right? So there's always like dual relationship going on. You know someone somehow.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep that dual relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's helpful as well, because like everybody has, like, if I know you and you might know someone, and so we are connected in that way. And in like, especially in our communities, we do function like that.
Yeah.
Like one person knows another, and then another knows another.
Yeah.
And it is not like as individualistic as other countries,
right?
Because we usually focus, and even now we like function on like communal in community practice.
However, I want to add, even if I know this person remotely, confidentiality, professionalism is what I have to abide by.
So how do you do that? Like don't you struggle keeping the confidence?
No. I like once I leave my room, my office, I don't talk about them. I don't talk. I tell them, even if I see you in the community at a grocery store or wherever, I may not acknowledge you. I don't want to put you in a position where people, your friends or whoever you're with, may ask you, oh, who is she? And you have to say, oh, she's my counselor, blah, blah. Right? So I tell them, if you want to say hi to me, I have no problem. But I'm not going to be the first one to acknowledge your presence. I will just act as if you're a stranger. So that's my rule. That's what I
So like you might have some clients like a high profile clients who want to keep their identity separate, and that's
not just high profile, anybody.
I mean everybody's high profile in a sense. Like if you're in a Christian worldview, everybody's high profile because you're made in the image of God, right?
Yes, amen.
And so I'm running out of questions here.
It's okay. we can maybe to do it again next time.
Yeah, and so interesting talk we had today. And what do you wanna like? How do you wanna wrap it? Like, like, do you wanna say anything at last?
Yeah. Like I said, it's not just about your mental health, right? You have to see yourself as a whole person.
Yeah.
Like if you are struggling mentally, maybe it's something else actually, right? What you are eating, right? What you are thinking, spirituality, all of those are connected, and everything needs to be in balance to live a healthy life. So it's not just like mental health is one thing that I need to take care of. No, that's not how it works. So maybe that's what I would like to end with.
Okay, interesting. So we discussed on many interesting topics, and maybe we should follow up on
I love that.
And thank you for your time, and I hope you liked it.
Yeah, thanks.
And so should we name this session something? If people view it, I think people should name it.
Yeah, we'll ask them, huh?
Yeah. Okay. I hope people view it. I hope you guys view it.